Here we go. Let it go. Let it breathe for just a second before I get too excited. I'm so excited for this show, Thomas. I've been just waiting to get home and crack this microphone. Good evening, Broncos country. Thomas Hall, Luke Patterson, and Scott Kennedy here for Mile High Insiders. It's Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Mountain here in Broncos country. We're at training camp, baby. Thomas and I are boots on the ground for Mile High Huddle. We've been arguing, rapping football, having a great time, meeting some new friends out there. And boy, we have got a ton of training camp news, notes, and opinions that we've got to get to on this show. Absolutely. But Thomas, how we feeling, man? Thomas, you're on location, baby. You're at the hotel right now.
Got conference room, got chairs behind me, so never mind the mess. It's not mine, but yeah, anywhere I can go to come at you guys and give you camp scoops. It's so funny. The thing that I thought of today, and I know this is probably going to sound ridiculous, but in Tommy Boy, when he's selling the brake pads, he's like, I could stick my head up a bull's ass, but I'd rather take the
butcher's word for it.
Butcher's word for it, right? That's what it's like in training camp, but the opposite. You got to be there to see what's going on and form your own opinion, man, because it's so much different than just checking out reports, because you're listening to somebody else's opinion. If you're out there on the ground watching it, it is so much better.
100%. We're going to get into some of those differences. Yours truly is going to be taking some shots at people. I'm always ornery, and I just get after it. And I don't care, man. It's football season, and I've got a bone to pick with some of Broncos country and some of the Denver media. We'll get to that here in just a little bit. Right. But first, our guy Dylan Von Arks saying, "What's up, Broncos country? Make sure you hit like that button on the way in, share on all platforms, and please subscribe if you have not done so already." And speaking of DVA, head on over to milehighhuddle.com. Dylan has an article up right now talking Broncos camp, talking biggest differences between Sean Payton and Nathaniel Hackett's approach. Something Broncos country, I don't know, you might want to check out, considering the verbal jabs are still going back and forth, more so from New York. But hey, Jets Broncos week 5, that's going to be a big one. But speaking of big ones, the support, a huge, generous show of support and love from our guy Troy in 999. Thank you for joining Thomas and I here on MHI, saying, "Hey guys, I enjoyed camp today. I'm sorry I missed you. Grimes looks great all the time. Defensive line was dominant. Secondary was elite. And our guy Phil McLaughlin puts everyone else in slow motion. I'm excited for the year. Troy, you gave me goosebumps. I have been gushing about Phil McLaughlin with my guys on the hill, including Thomas. This guy is running. Today he was running with the twos. Why? Javonte Williams finally got the day off, and it's not because he asked for it. It's because coach is making him. Javonte's still out there getting conditioning work in, but Coach Payton is finally saying, you've been working your tail off. We got to make sure you're healthy. I know. You say you're good. Let's take it easy. So that means Samaje Perine, next man up. He has looked fantastic. A bulky, strong veteran back. It's bizarre to see a number 25 running back, considering Melvin Gordon, and this guy's not fumbling. So that's good to see. But behind Samaje Perine, Phil McLaughlin. I wrote about him in my training camp journal. Thomas, tell us a little bit about Phil McLaughlin and what Troy saw today out at training camp.
Yeah, he's absolutely right, man. McLaughlin is fast, quick, hits the crease, and he's gone. I mean, he looks very good compared to anybody else that's going to be trying to take that third spot. I mean, unless something bad happens, knock on wood. I mean, he already seems to have that third spot locked up behind Williams and Perine. I mean, it's impressive. It's very impressive.
To your point and Troy's point, it's so impressive that I'm asking, who is this guy? And I wrote about him at milehighhuddle.com, day 6 or day 5 of my Broncos training camp journal. He's from Youngstown State, transferred from Notre Dame, not the University of Notre Dame, but Notre Dame College. My friends in the scouting community, Matt Waldman, huge shout out to Matt Waldman. You guys got to check out the rookie scouting portfolio. It will blow your mind. Matt Waldman has described him as Philip Lindsay with hands, and knowing Broncos country and that relationship with Philip Lindsay, right? That just gets people excited. He's a jolt of lightning coming out of the backfield. And Troy, don't be sorry you missed us. If you're still out there, come say hello. You can come find Thomas and I. We got to meet Keith today. Shout out to our guy. I know he's listening, a friend of the show. And we just want to say hello. We want to take a picture with you, get you guys some MHI gear. And it's a blast out at Broncos training
Yeah.
camp, Tom.
Yeah, and he hit on another guy that I talked about, Taylor Grimes, right? The wide receiver, nobody expects much from him. He just won't drop a pass. And
Number 13.
yeah, they had him out, they had him out there fielding punts from the jugs machine now, just because he's caught their eye. He's trying to get they're trying to get him more opportunities, because when you go out there and you catch everything thrown your way and you're impressive, a good route runner too. I think I think you hit the nail on head on that as well. I wrote about him in my article yesterday, and looking really good. Small guy, but I mean, we all remember a small guy tearing it up in Wes Welker for this team as well. So you can't judge a book by its cover.
There's a number of small guys, if you will, that are playmakers in the NFL. It's no longer just about the size. It's what can you do on the field? Are you a good teammate in the locker room, and do you stay out of trouble? Those three things are pretty much going to keep you a job in the NFL. David, what's up, man? Getting that Buckham shirt. I love it. Every time I got to give David a shout out, because I love Sean Payton, just like David does, and just like you do, Thomas. I'm going to say it for you. You love him. I know you're cautiously optimistic and all this crap. You love him. I'm going to say it for you. I like that attitude and that Buckham attitude all over David's shirt. Thank you for joining MHI, and thanks for all the support over the last year, really. Good evening, Broncos country. Luke, Tom, Dylan, and Deacon Scott giving us that shout out. The reminder, he's never going to let us forget. David is going 12-5 for your Denver Broncos. Hashtag Buckham, MHH for life, Denver Broncos for life. David, man, I love it, dude. I love that David is hanging his hat on 12-5. He's planted his flag and it's not going anywhere. I love to see that kind of boldness and optimism, because David's laying it all out there. And we usually give our predictions right before preseason or before the regular season, collective staff, and we do keep record of our weekly picks, right? And at the end of the year, somebody's always announced, and they kind of get bragging rights throughout the year. David's like that too, and David wants in on the fun. So if you've got a Broncos prediction, go ahead and give it to me, folks, in the comment section.
12-5 would be ridiculous, man. It would be amazing. Right. That means they conquered the AFC West, in my opinion. I mean, pretty much. It might
say that again. They what? They
conquered the AFC West if they went.
Conquered the AFC West. Let's think about that and what it means for just a second. That would mean that the 15-game winning streak from the Chiefs is over.
Yep.
What is that? A year or two long drought from the Raiders is over. The Chargers, Justin Herbert, who they just paid all that money to, I guess he didn't do anything this year. I mean, wow. Yeah. That's why I'm so excited about that, because David's got his right, man. He's got his right to call out that 12-win record, and what a turnaround that would be. Speaking of turnarounds, Stu McPeak, man, always turning around that love, giving us love every week when he can. Stu's been with us since day one when this show launched, way back when on Saturday nights, saying, hi, all. How are the Broncos looking? What's the vibe? And I'm going to go ahead and take this one, Stu, real quick, before we get to Thomas. How are the Broncos looking? It's very hard to walk away from a training camp in 2023 feeling totally satisfied. For one, the collective bargaining agreement rules kind of limit how much work these guys can do. There's a set schedule to things, not just pads, but shells, walkthrough, the tempo, the pace. There are all these different things and variables, if you will, to practice that we're not privy to, especially with Sean Payton. And I will say this as a media member, I'm going to be credentialed out there Saturday. I'm there every day. Come say hello. But it's been so restricted, Tom. I mean, you see it. Media is right where the fans are. No media is allowed on the field. It's very hard to get a complete grasp of what this team's looking like. But I'll tell you this. I'll tell you what I told Scott before we started the show. Practice is deliberate. There's an intensity to it. There are mistakes being made. Make no bones about it, and we're going to get into that into the show. But guys aren't lollygagging between drills. You've got O-linemen sprinting across the field just to be ready for whatever coach says to do next. There's a nice hustle to this whole training camp vibe. It's a work in progress. We're not even a week in. I think there's been a lot of overreaction to some of Russell Wilson's play and some of Sean Payton's actions and comments, if you will, and we're going to get into that in the show. But what kind of vibe are you getting out there? What can you tell Stu from your eyes. You're right next to me. We see things differently too, folks.
Yeah.
You should hear us argue up there on the hill, from anything about movies to different players.
That's right.
What can you tell Stu about the vibe and how the Broncos are looking? Not even a week into training camp. We're just behind by a day or two.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's camp, right? Mistakes are going to be made, like you said. But from what I'm seeing, it looks like they're getting quality reps in. And I talked about that as one of my keys to look for is, are they getting quality reps? And it looks like they are. In fact, they were very deliberate. I was surprised to see just how deliberate the kickoff coverage was under the new special teams coaches, right? It was a different format that I've ever seen, but they were really teaching these folks getting in, it wasn't just run down the field and keep in your lanes. They were stopping at mid sprint, so to speak, talking about now what you do next and whatever. And it was really nice. I enjoyed it. It's hard to tell what the vibe is like, after Tim Patrick's injury. So there might have been a little down the first day that I was there, but the second day there seemed to be there was some intensity, at least from the defense, from what I could tell. There's something a little bit different about it, but like I said, there's mistakes are going to be made. You just want to make sure that they're not making those same mistakes again and again, right? And it doesn't seem to be happening that often, right? Where they end up doing something wrong and then they go out and they do something wrong right after it. It seems like they come back with a little bit more I don't know what you would call it, a little bit more intensity, a little bit more drive to get it right.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But Thomas, Russell Wilson's thrown 3 interceptions to Justin Simmons in 3 days. He's no good. We should start Jarrett Stidham. Baloney. I wrote about that at milehighhuddle.com. I've completely dispelled and obliterated that hot take that is circulating the Denver media right now. It's driving me crazy. We're all seeing the same thing. You do not need to manufacture a quarterback controversy, because I'm telling you right now, I don't know Jarrett Stidham. I've never met him. Maybe I get to talk to him Saturday. We'll see. But when the football leaves Jarrett Stidham's hand, I don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
Period. Now, Jarrett Stidham is here because Sean Payton hand selected him. I get it. He's a robotic type of quarterback. He is a yes man. We all know that. He's great on the chalkboard. But when it comes to just executing on the field, it's been a lot of underwhelming plays from this backup quarterback who Sean Payton is convinced he can do something with. And God bless him. Maybe he's going to be the next big thing, and I just don't see it. But Ben DiNucci, kind of a wild hair quarterback, if you will, he's making some good plays out there, specifically today. And I think Ben DiNucci has a real chance at impressing Sean Payton in this training camp. Coach obviously had some words for him in OTAs, and you can read about that if you go way back when, just a month or two at milehighhuddle.com. But look, it's camp, folks. It's camp. Yeah. There's training camp guy out there who is counting Russell Wilson's interceptions. He's charting his plays. And I ask you this: how do you chart plays on 7-on-7? Please tell me. I mean, I'm here for it. I chart every game. I just don't understand it without context, without being there, without seeing this for your very eyes. These notions that just because Russell Wilson's thrown some interceptions in training camp, that Jarrett Stidham's the next big thing. Baloney.
No, if Stidham has to go in, that something bad has happened. That's all I got to say.
Emergency, break glass.
Yeah, he's not looked that good. And I'm not a quarterback expert by any means, but I can see with my own eyes, how it's unfolding on the field. It hasn't been good. So, and I'll tell you, today's interception that I saw, and this is the whole thing when I started the show out, I'm watching something and I'm going to give you my opinion. And if you run with that opinion, that you're making an opinion on opinion. But from my perspective, it went through Brandon Johnson's hands. He should have caught the ball and went right into Justin Simmons. So it's things like that. Oh, Russell Wilson threw an interception. Well, like you said, the context was he threw it to Brandon Johnson and he missed it, and it went into that happens,
Nobody wants to talk about that, Tom. It's just, and look, it's not that we're apologizing for Russell Wilson either.
Right.
But I will say this before we get to our friend Michael Brinquillo, who's been very generous and patient as I go on my rant against Denver media right now. Look, Russell Wilson is very quick to take off on the run during some team period. Never on 7-on-7. That's a cardinal sin. He understands that. That's Paxton Lynch bad, because if you're running as a quarterback in 7-on-7, then God be with you. You're not going to make this football team. But in team period, Russell Wilson needs to get rid of the ball, plain and simple. He's getting rid of the ball a lot quicker right now. And that's something I do like to see. He can clean some things up, but guys, he's learning as well. And Michael Rinquillo, real quick. Good evening, Thomas and Luke on the Mile High Insiders. Go Broncos and buck 'em. I appreciate all that support, brother. Just like Naj Althoff, another one of those guys from the beginning supporting MHI, and I can't thank you enough. 1999, a huge super chat saying, "Hey, brothers, from what I've been reading, Russell Wilson and the offense have really struggled. How bad has it been from your perspective?"
Well, I'll tell you, they have struggled, but not every play. There's been some good plays out there as well. So if people are reporting that they're just struggling all the time, that's not really true. They've made some good plays as well. You have to understand a couple things. One, it's a brand new system. They're trying to work out the kinks. You're going up against a defense that some of the players are still familiar with, right? They played under Vance Joseph. So you've got Zach Allen, who played for Vance Joseph, absolutely wrecking offense every play. I mean, just absolutely wrecking it. It's unbelievable how good he's been in training camp, right? And I hope that follows suit in the season, because he's going to have a great season. But you've got people that are wrecking the offense, and it makes it hard. But like I said, are they getting quality reps in? Yes, they make a mistake, but they come back and they seem to make up for it some of the time, right? So there's progress going on. But, they're feeling out other players too. There's players that are getting reps sometimes that may not be on the team, right? So you have to weigh that in perspective. Now, I'm not going to make excuses. I think Russell Wilson has to play a little bit better for sure. I think he's held on the ball a little too long at times. But this is to be expected. That's the point. It's to be expected. If they came out with a new offense and we're firing on all cylinders and doing great, that would be amazing to me. I would be flabbergasted.
Even then, people would be worried. And Scott and I were talking about it before the show. I went back in my training camp journal from last year around this time, not as early, but when the Cowboys came here and the Broncos whooped up on them, the Broncos offense. And we thought we were going to see this stellar offense and in the regular season, they completely flatlined. So it's hard to it's training camp, folks. I'm not saying that to make it feel marginalized or insignificant. Not at all. It's right. So important. But at the same time, we talking about practice if we're challenging, or channeling our inner AI. Miguel, coming in. Sup, fellas? Do you think Sean Payton is putting Russell Wilson positions to see what he can do?
Yep.
Sounds like number 3 is struggling a lot. Miguel, I'm going to say this, brother, and something that a lot of people are somewhat timid when they report, but I'm not. I wrote about it at milehighhuddle.com today. Garrett Bowles is struggling, folks. He's having a very underwhelming start to training camp. In that same breath, it's only a week. He's coming off of a broken leg. I understand that. He's trying. Don't get me wrong. It's not for lack of trying, but you're seeing some young dogs get over on number 72, specifically Jonathan Cooper, Nick Bonito. I mean, come on, man. Nick Bonito is not a world beater. While I am excited that Nick Bonito has finally arrived, at least to training camp, and you wrote about him yesterday at milehighhuddle.com. Garrett Bowles is better than that, and I am just a tad bit worried because Russell Wilson has guys in his face all the time. You just talked about Zach Allen. I'm talking about Nick Bonito. I'm talking about Jonathan Cooper. I mean, that pocket is collapsing from the tackle position, specifically the left side, a lot. So Russ is struggling a little bit, but with those interceptions, Coach Sean Payton was asked about that a little bit today, and he said he didn't think it was, quote, a big whoop. And coach is always going to tell you how he feels. He's very blunt and honest, and he's gotten after his quarterbacks in the past. So I think if there was a problem this early, coach isn't going to tell you the details of it, but you're going to know that there's an issue. I mean, you saw Garrett Bowles get in trouble yesterday from Sean Payton during a false start, something that hadn't happened until Garrett did that yesterday. And I'm not saying he can't come back from it, but this is a team game, right? And I do understand quarterback's the most important position, but when you are constantly under pressure, you need some help.
Well, and I don't think it's just Bowles either. I mean, McGlinchey's just coming back. He's been gone. So there's a lot of timing stuff. Yep. And Nick Benito showed what he could do against McGlinchey too, right? I mean, he seemed to school the vet there with a nice changeup in practice yesterday and got to Russell Wilson in a flash. So the whole offensive line is just now starting to come together. If you think about it, McGlinchey's been gone for personal reasons. Garrett Bowles coming back from injury. Ben Powers is a new guy coming in. That's all got to solidify. So hopefully that happens sooner rather than later so they can start to get some more quality reps in. But it's not just been Bowles. It's been the whole line has not impressed yet. But like I said, it's only the 7th day of camp and their whole line hasn't even been together. And I hope it comes together because God forbid if one of them goes down, Fleming has not looked very good either. Neither is Isaiah Prince from my perspective. So they better stay healthy and get it together.
Yeah. For me, I have way more concern right now about pass rushers getting to Russell Wilson than Russell Wilson getting rid of the ball or throwing interceptions. That's where my level of concern is right now. I mean, I'm waiting for this offensive line to make a stand. A really cool note, just a little training camp note, if you will, today. Who was it that just pancaked Frank Clark? Do you remember who that was?
Yeah, that was
on the left.
Yep, it was Henry Bird just laid him out. Yeah.
Yeah,
Henry
we all
Bird,
him, we
guard.
love him. Good old Henry Bird is out there pancaking Frank Clark, and I hope I don't get in trouble for saying that. But Frank Clark gets up, pats the young fella on the head, and goes back and has a fantastic rep getting quarterback pressure immediately after that. But it was nice because I think sometimes a real punk veteran would start a fight. I don't know, like Travis Kelce's doing twice out there at Kansas City Chiefs camp. I mean, I was encouraged to see that because I am very concerned about Frank Clark's character and making it through a whole season, just like people are with Randy Gregory, right? And some of those inconsistencies. So I was happy to see it. And I think it shows a level of maturity. I think it shows a level of being a good teammate. And I was really pumped to see that. Just like I'm pumped to see Phil McLaughlin in the chat saying, good evening, Luke, Thomas, and Deacon Scott. Thank you so much for all the support, Phil. Hey, Luke, it's Phil McLaughlin. Yep. I run like crazy. Hashtag Buckham. Hashtag Go Broncos. Oh, man. Phil, an absolute dog. Thank you so much for your support. And I know Phil's wondering about these Broncos too, which is why we are giving you the best training camp coverage. We have a podcast every single night of the week. We've got your weekend covered, your mornings covered, and we have got all of your news and analysis covered at milehighhuddle.com. Please be sure to follow us on Twitter at milehighhuddle. Follow the pod at MHI_pod. If you'd like to reach out to Thomas, that's at Thomas Hall NFL. Yours truly at Luke Patterson LP and at Scout Kennedy. If you'd like to reach out to Scott, Howie freaking Day. Now that's a name I haven't heard for a very long time. To channel my Obi-Wan, Howie has been with us since day one. Man, it's great to see you, Howie. I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for all the support. Broncos country is ready. Training camp's here. No disrespect to the Avalanche or the Nuggets or any other sports team in this town that's the best team ever, but it's football season, Thomas. I mean, you're seeing it just like I am. Broncos country's packing the hill out there at Centura Health Training Center. They're sharing their favorite Broncos stories of all time. Lots of them get to meet these very Broncos that they've come to love, and it's awesome to see a group of people come together because these are divisive times. I'm not going to hide behind that or pretend like it's not happening, but to see people truly united in orange, not just the catchphrase, but people are out there having fun. There's no trouble or anything like that. It's a cool thing to see, man.
Yeah, it is. It's the hill is packed even on a weekday, so that's good. And people are excited, and they should be. I mean, they really should be, and but they shouldn't jump to conclusions. They should trust the process. Sean Payton's been doing this for a long time. I wouldn't, if we're into week 3 and they're still not clicking at all, then maybe start worrying.
Sure, a little bit.
Right now, don't start worrying. But yeah, it's a lot of fun out there, man. You meet, you never know who you're going to meet, but it's just fun to just sit and chat. And we're sitting up there, we're talking. Obviously, we argue about movies and shows because your taste is terrible. But we do talk about football, and you see something different than I see, and it's great. It's so much fun to have that, kind of bounce back and forth perspective, and then we can bring it to you guys. So it's a blast.
And that's what's so cool about it. And Reed Thomas has an article dropping any minute now at milehighhuddle.com. I'm out there covering it every day. Thomas is here covering training camp with me right now, and it's a ton of fun to be able to just talk football with your friends on a personal note. I'm so blessed to have this opportunity, and certainly proud of it. So head on over to milehighhuddle.com and check out all of our work. The team is working hard. Gary Palmer, speaking of working hard, our guy Gary Palmer is always working hard to show us love and support. Another one of those goats, the MHH Super Chat Superstars. Hey, Luke, Thomas, and Scott, what is up? From my perspective, they're learning a new scheme. And if you're not making mistakes, you're not trying. So I'm not worried. Go Broncos and buck them. And Gary, I completely agree with you. It's something I wrote about day one for my training camp journal. And look, I know Russell Wilson can run. I know that he's athletic. I know that he's dropped weight. I'm thrilled about all of it. Don't waste your reps. You only get so many of these reps in training camp. You don't know when another guy's going to go down. You don't know when you're going to have bad luck. Life happens, things happen, and that doesn't halt just because it's on the football field. Russell Wilson is working hard, folks, and I'm not a Russell Wilson apologist. I'll be the first to get after him, but I'm not worried about interceptions, just like Gary. I'm not. Peyton Manning threw a ton of interceptions in training camp, Thomas. Yeah. A ton. Nobody wants to remember that. Nobody wants to talk about it because it's not fun to talk about Peyton Manning training camp days. But you know what? It's fun to talk about Pro Football Hall of Fame, Super Bowl rings, all the accolades out the wazoo. That's a lot of fun. So I completely agree with Gary. Now, if they're bonehead plays, which some of them have been over and over and over, expect Sean Payton to step in and make that change as well. No, I'm not saying the change is going to be Jarrett Stidham, but maybe it's a different play. Maybe it's getting after Russ. Maybe it's getting after his teammates. That's something else. Without context, it's so hard to tell whose fault it truly is on plays, no matter how hard we want to do it, Thomas. I mean, it's like you said today, Brandon Johnson on 2 interceptions today for Russ. One of them, Brandon Johnson, it looked like from where we were, the ball went right through him and it hit Simmons right in the numbers. So on those sorts of things, man, it's tough. I did write about it yesterday at milehighhuddle.com. At least Russ is going after some of these guys. At least he's trying to go get after PS2. He's not being a fool. At least he's trying to get after Justin Simmons. Folks, these are 2 of the best at their position. I mean, Pat Surtain, I would dare to say, is the best corner in the NFL, but I'm all right with it. I'm not panicking.
Well, I'll tell you, this is the thing. Sean Payton said it from the get-go. He needs to go look at what Russell Wilson does well and then try and accentuate that. Well, you've got to do that in training camp. You got to test the waters. Can he do this well? Can he not do that well? I mean, the great big Bill Walsh and Joe Montana went back and looked at all of his interceptions and said, this is where you're throwing your most interceptions during games. And so we're not going to do that anymore. So they're doing it in camp to see where they come from. I mean, I'm not saying that's the reason. I'm saying it's a possibility that they are putting into the works right now to see what works, what doesn't. That's what training camp's all about. So maybe it's a couple plays that they're noticing that typically aren't good for Russell Wilson. Okay, well, they're probably not going to put that in a bunch of times during a game, right? They're testing the waters. It's the way it goes. So if people are getting freaked out right now, I think it's a little too early to get freaked out. That's what we're just trying to say. Let the process happen. If it's the 3rd game in the season and they're still throwing boneheaded plays and getting intercepted, I think it's time to start worrying. And I think it's Ben DiNucci that you got to throw in there.
For sure, dude. And I'm not a DiNucci fan. I'm not thrilled with these backup quarterbacks, to be honest with you. I'm really not. I think DiNucci should move up based off of the last few days on the depth chart right now. I don't know that there's a battle for QB2, but the eye test at least tells me that Ben DiNucci would give you a better chance of scoring points. I could be totally wrong, but it's just the eye test. Naj Althoff again, man, coming in with so much love. Thank you, Naj. Up until a few years ago, I had never heard the goings on of training camp. The goal is getting the best 53 and fixing mistakes. I sure hope Broncos country passionately supports Russ and every member of that team. They need us. I'll tell you this, Naj, you're definitely seeing love from the fans. Russell Wilson jerseys are back, folks. One thing I like to do, and it may sound weird, but when I'm with my friends out there, you people watch a little. Who's wearing what jersey? You didn't see many Russ jerseys at the end of camp last year because it was a bad camp. You're starting to see those threes come out. And no, it's not a Drew Lock 3 or anything like that. It's the Russell Wilson 3. It's cool to see that. It's for me, I think this fan base wants to see what Sean Payton can get out of Russell Wilson, just like the rest of us. But I think that they're starting to trust Sean Payton. I think that they're starting to respect Sean Payton based on the way he's running practice. They're not the best practices ever, but I think the fan base is behind this football team right now.
Yeah, I mean, they're having a lot of fun out there, but it's funny because you heard a lot from camp recently, and you're not hearing as much from camp this year, although we're reporting out, we can be out there and we can report on it. But there's days that it's just media and they're told not to say anything. So we don't even know what goes on those days. That's not
tomorrow.
Right.
Tomorrow's one of those days. Tomorrow's one of those days that I'm not allowed to be there. You're not allowed to be there. And they're going to be having a practice, and media is limited in what they can say. Shocker. I already got in trouble are out there at training camp with the team this year. So I'm trying to play it the new way. And a lot of people in our business, Tom, you see it, they hate it. They're complaining about it. And we can either complain about it for selfish reasons, or we could get behind this coach and this team and what these guys are trying to build. Sean Payton was always my number one candidate. So if it means I get less access and the practices are a little harder to interpret, okay, I want to see this team succeed. I want to see winning football. I want to see more primetime games. I want to see the Broncos Jets become the first game flexed this season, because normally they don't flex games that early in the season, week 5. I want that. And there's momentum for that right now. Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin talked about it a couple days ago. I saw it on social media, not Twitter, X, or whatever they're calling it these days. Right. So it's a new era. It's exciting. It's at times frustrating, but what isn't? That's life, baby. And you're seeing these guys start to develop some trust. There haven't been fights out there or anything. There have been little minor skirmishes, but I think Sean Payton, one thing I've noticed out at training camp, Sean Payton is trying to empower players to police themselves. Yeah. When I did see a skirmish or two the first couple of days of camp, it wasn't the coaches getting in there to break it up. It was the players. And then they're always seen dabbing it up at the end, making nice. And it's not for show. None of this is for show. You think running gassers is for show? No, Sean Payton's not yelling at these guys they need to run gassers because it was a terrible practice. They're running gassers because that was on the schedule. It's part of the plan. And one last thing, I'll let you get to some of your takes next, but I think that Sean Payton is truly empowering this coaching staff to coach their team, to coach their positional groups and their respective units. You see it, coaches all over the field, but he's not in everybody's business. He's not meticulously dissecting every little thing that his assistants are doing, like a guy, Vic Fangio, would do all the time and completely bully some of these younger guys. You're not seeing that with Sean Payton. He's been there, he's done that, and he knows you win as a team and you lose as a team. I think you're starting to see trust get built.
Yeah, and I just want to piggyback on what you said. I mean, that is helping the team come together, and that is a very important piece that you have to understand in training camp to watch is how is this team camaraderie coming together? Just like you said earlier, Frank Clark popped up instead of getting mad. Hey, said, good job, and went about his business. You right? Team policing the team. That's important because when you're out there struggling to try and bring something together, you're behind and you need to come up with something. You can either quit or you can be together as a team and you can pull out a victory during the season. And that starts in training camp. And that's what I'm seeing too. I'm seeing a pretty decent camaraderie amongst the players. And that's important because if they don't care about each other, if they're not fighting for each other. And like you said, it was Henry Bird, a guy that may not make the team, and Frank Clark, and they're still playing together as a team. And that's what's important. And if you see that happening, that means the team is going to be better. So you're not going to see the stupidity that you saw last year with all the dumb penalties. They're going to knock that stuff out right away. And it's, so that's an important key that we're seeing that's different between last year and this year. And it's expected because Sean Payton has been there before and done it before, and it's showing. It's showing up early. Yeah, you can talk about Russell Wilson's interceptions, but talk about the important things, the keys, the team camaraderie, and how their reps are happening. And when they're tired, are they still out there working hard? That type of stuff. Picks are going to happen, but pay attention to the real things that are going to matter when the season comes along.
100%. Let's talk about preparation. These guys know their playbooks. Period. That doesn't mean that there's not a missed route occasionally or a missed assignment. It happens every rep. It's football. That's why it's so damn hard, guys. This sport is the ultimate team game. And to field an offense, defense, and special teams, as Phil McLaughlin is asking about right now, it takes a lot. And Phil's asking real quick, giving us some love. Thank you so much, Phil. Great question. Guys, any sightings on our kickers? And this is always an interesting question because it's a position battle. It's a very important battle. Coach Sean Payton was paying laser-focused attention to it yesterday as Elliott Fry and Brett Maher were going at it, and it sounds like it's a pretty close competition. I say it sounds like it because it's hard to see some of these guys. They've changed the field, Phil. It used to go, what was it, north-south or east-west? It used to go east-west, and now it's going north-south. They've moved the end zones. Everything's different under Sean Payton. So it's hard to see sometimes what the starters are doing and even what some of the kickers are doing just because of where the field goals are and the position of the field. So I think based off of everything that I've seen and what I've heard, it's Brett Maher's job to lose.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't tell you. I saw them kick a few kicks, like field goal kicks, and they went through the uprights. So who's ahead? I don't know. They both seem to be making field goals. So that's about all I can tell you, really, from what I saw at camp, because I couldn't really see that much when they're doing the kicking. So to me, they're both making kicks. So hopefully the competition, whoever shakes out is going to be a better player. But yeah, I mean, it is. You're right. It's Brett's job is likely it's his to lose at this point.
Yeah, maybe it was just a Cowboys curse. Those guys are so. They deserve everything that happens to them. I'd never feel bad for the Cowboys. So maybe, change the scenery. To be serious for a second, change of scenery could help. And why couldn't it help a kicker? I'm playing devil's advocate. I didn't want Maher here. If I had my pick between him and McManus, I'm taking McManus, all right? And my issues with McManus have been well documented. But it's just one of these things for me where I'm like, okay. Just like Jarrett Stidham. Okay. But I wanted this guy here. So doesn't that mean I have to give him a chance? That's why I'm not panicking, right? I'm going to give you a chance. Just like Garrett Bowles. I'm saying he's had a underwhelming start to training camp in my article up at milehighhuddle.com. That doesn't mean he can't change that. I also pointed out in the article, look, it's been just under a week of training camp. Garrett Bowles has been known to turn things around before, and he is coming back from a very gruesome injury. Breaking your leg is no fun. I broke my arm last August. That was no fun. I can only imagine being a professional athlete, specifically a left tackle, breaking your leg and coming back. Garrett physically looks in fantastic shape. He takes great care of himself, and I think he can turn it around. Alonzo Gonzalez coming in with a generous $4.99 super. Thank you for joining Thomas and I here on MHI during our Broncos training camp coverage. Offensive struggling and wide receiver Tim Patrick going down are giving me PTSD from last year. Yeah. Alonzo, I think you speak for all of Broncos country with that comment right there, and I know everyone's thoughts and prayers are with Timmy Pats. I was there when it happened last year. I was there when it happened this year. It completely wrecked practice both years. It wrecked the season last year. But Thomas, you and I have been watching some wide receivers that have been having some good days. And what do I mean by good days? No drops, no missed assignments, earning your reps, climbing up the depth chart, if you will. I'm super high on Brandon Johnson. He had a rough day today, but he put together a really good 4 days in a row. I wrote about him yesterday. Who was the wide receiver that you wrote about yesterday at milehighhuddle.com that not only caught your eye, but came out and dominated today? Yeah. 2-3 consecutive days in a row.
Taylor Grimes, man. It's crazy to see. He just does not drop a ball, runs good routes. And they're trying to, like I said earlier, they're trying to find a spot for him. They have him fielding punts. We're seeing it. The coaches are seeing it. The guy's getting himself open, making catches, and it's going to be a tough decision when cut down day, if they have to cut him, because he's been playing really well. But the wide receiver position has a lot of players like that. Who are they going to go with, right? I mean, you got Ahmad Callaway out there who has familiarity with this, or Marquez Callaway, sorry, familiarity with the system. He's not playing special teams. He's moved up the depth chart most likely. Your guy Brandon Johnson was taking reps with the first team in Tim Patrick's place pretty much when they weren't doing two tight end sets.
And in the slot when Judy wasn't in. I mean, they were moving this man all over the field, and they're doing it with other guys like you're talking about. We haven't even mentioned Lil Jordan Humphreys. I mean, he's up there too. Jalen Virgil.
Or Marvin Mims.
Marvin Mims back in action today.
First day back.
I mean, Montreal Washington had a good day today.
Yes,
dare I say it? Now, you guys know Thomas and I are not fans of Montreal Washington, but we're not going to come up here and lie to you. Yeah, Thomas is. He's the reason he's here. Him and Zach Azani. But no, we're not going to lie to you. We're going to give the guy his due because he deserved it. He had a fantastic day today as a wide receiver, not as a punt returner, not as a kick return specialist, as a wideout. But folks, I'm here to tell you, if you're a fan of Kendall Hinton, buckle up, because I think that car has left the station. Man, muffed punts, missed assignments, dropped passes. Kendall Hinton has seen better days. It's been a good story. Sean Payton doesn't care about your story. No. Period. It doesn't matter. And case in point, look at Dalton Reisner, right? And Scott's looking in the private chat here, giving us an update. The Vikings worked out Dalton Reisner and then signed a different offensive lineman as soon as they worked Dalton Reisner out. Christian Delario. Just gives you a sense of the times.
And I'm going to tell you right now.
In Broncos land.
I'm going to tell you right now, though, if there any wide receiver that's hoping to get on the punt return, be a punt returner, you got to show out on offense, because from my perspective, Marvin Mims looks so comfortable. So it's his first day back, and he was out there fielding punts like he'd just been doing it, an hour before. He looks relaxed, looks comfortable. It looks like his job, right? Like he's going to be out there. It's what it looks like to me.
I push back against Thomas on the Hill, and I'm going to push back against him right now here on MHI. Is Sean Payton going to trust a second-round rookie as the starting punt returner? Is that why he drafted Marvin Mims in the second round? Not to play special teams. It's what I told Thomas on the Hill. It's what I'm going to say here on MHI. Man, that's interesting. That would be a bold. Is that your hot take, or are you putting your flag in the ground there saying Marvin Mims will be the punt returner? I don't know if it's a hot take or not.
Just watching him catch punts, he looked so much better than anybody else there. He just could judge the ball perfectly well. I mean, he could catch it pretty much with ease. And I'll tell you, I mean, now that Tim Patrick went down, he may end up being more involved in the offense. But I still think he was drafted for an eye to the future, but also with his ability on special teams. I think most of those draftees were, and I'll stick to that. I would be surprised if he moves up the depth chart once he gets back fully healthy and starts playing offense, and he's the third wide receiver. Maybe you won't see him fielding punts, but if he's the fourth or fifth guy, he's going to be the punt returner. I put the stake in the ground and say that.
Okay. I'm tired of this. The receivers are too valuable to field punts. Baloney, dude. Get back there and do it. Emmanuel Sanders did it forever, and he wasn't a young pup. Kayleon Green coming in here. Thank you for being patient. I wanted to get to this question. Who's going to win the battle at strong safety? Kayleon, I wrote about that today in my training camp journal. Not necessarily who's going to win the battle, but who's getting the first team reps, at least from what I'm seeing right now. That's Caden Stearns. Caden Stearns has been the starter at the strong safety position since day one in training camp. Now, I haven't been there in the offseason. I haven't been there during that 2-day ramp up, but I'm telling you what I've seen every day out at training camp, and he's running with the ones. When he's not on the field, he's yucking it up with Justin Simmons and PS2. I mean, this man is certainly being treated like the starting safety right now alongside Justin Simmons. However, Kareem Jackson, he's a veteran player, right? He came back because he's a great locker room guy and a great leader. Because he's a veteran player, coach told us some vets, specifically the guys coming back from injury, and K-Jack wasn't an injury, but they're going to get some monitored snap count days. They're going to get some vet days. And I think that you're seeing that not only from Kareem Jackson, but from some different cats as well. And that's what's being implemented. I don't know that Kareem Jackson I'm not saying he's going to get cut or he's horrible or anything like that. I'm just saying you're seeing a hodgepodge of guys out there. You said it earlier in the show. At a certain point, Ben DiNucci was throwing Jerry Jeudy a pass yesterday. It was really weird. I don't know why some of these things were happening. You see twos with threes, ones with threes, twos with twos, twos with ones. I mean, there's a bizarre combination happening out there, but you got to roll with it with Sean Payton. And it makes me wonder, does Sean Payton want to see if these guys are able to work with each other, even though they're on different tiers, different strings, different areas of the depth chart? It makes me wonder what Sean Payton's method to the madness is, at least when it comes to the hodgepodge of all these guys getting different looks and different opportunities in training camp.
Well, I also just say it's not that he's just running with the first team. I'm talking about Caden Stearns. He's actually been pretty dang good. So it's, he's it's
picking
not
the
like
ball
they're just
off.
saying, I want you to run with the first team and see how you do. And, when Kareem Jackson's resting, he is actually making it tough to beat him for that position. So it's not just like he just kind of got penciled in there and we'll see what it does. He's been playing pretty solid. So him and Justin Simmons have been playing really good this camp from my perspective. I haven't seen Kareem Jackson doing much at all. Like you said, he's not been out there a ton, but his contract is such that he's expendable pretty easily. They signed him, but they can get rid of him if they want to. Not that they will. I don't think they will, because I haven't seen the other young guys really step up. PJ Locke's definitely a special teams guy that you're probably going to keep around, but those other young guys, I haven't seen much from them. I haven't seen much from JL Skinner yet. I haven't seen much from Delaren Turner-Yell. Those are others.
I know. I had my guy Richie asking about it today on Twitter, and I'm like, dude, it's a hodgepodge of guys out there. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing right now from that starting defense, and it's looking pretty damn good. And huge tip of the cap to Caden Stearns, because look, you don't want to be that puppy that pretends to run with the big dogs and just looks ridiculous and gets swept up and just can't keep up with the pack. Caden Stearns isn't only keeping up with the pack, he's contributing to the pack. He's the pack member right now. So really happy for Caden Stearns. He had a lot of hype coming into this season, and right now he's earning every opportunity he gets. I wanted to get to bass fishing fuels here because I saw this in the comment section and we haven't talked a lot about it. I feel as though Albert O hasn't gotten a fair shake here in Denver. Sean Payton likes tight ends more than Nathaniel Hackett ever did. Does Albert O take a big step this year? He's not great at blocking, but has athleticism. I'll tell you this, bass fishing, he's getting a chance, just like every single guy here. Nobody's being excluded, Thomas, in training camp. How weird is that I'm saying that? Guys are getting so many different looks and so many different opportunities. I've been largely disappointed with Greg Dulcich. Shocker, I know. He's everybody's favorite tight end, even though he's done jack squat in this town. He's had a rough training camp. He's failed to come back for the ball. He's failed to put together consistent days. Now, he had a decent day today. I want to see him get some momentum and capitalize on it tomorrow. But Adam Troutman, you're writing about him at milehighhuddle.com. That's going to be out here in just a little bit. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing from the tight end room, including Alberto.
You're exactly right. I mean, Troutman's been the best tight end out on the field so far, easily. Like you said, Dulcich we expected big things from him, and he hasn't shown it yet. Now, again, it's early, so we don't want to jump to conclusions. Troutman has a familiarity with Sean Payton, so probably gave him an edge. But yeah, I like Troutman. Alberto's not really shown me much. In fact, I wrote about it. There's specific play. He's not a blocker. Manhurts is the blocker. You can't ever say Alberto can be step on the same turf when it blocks the Manhurts. But on one play, Alberto dropped a pass, and then the very next play, Manhurts caught the pass. That's telling you how good Alberto's camp's going, right? Manhurts is actually showing out as a better receiver right now than Alberto. Not that he definitely has had a shake, but he has had a tough go so far.
Jesus, look at our guy Dante coming in here calling his shot, hearing you on the underwhelming performances from Alberto and Greg Dulcich, saying OJ Howard's out there. I did see that, Dante. That's always a fun conversation, especially right now, and it's appropriate, and I want to get to it because a lot of Broncos country, as soon as Tim Patrick went down, and then KJ Hamler was released due to non-football related injuries, and thoughts and prayers to KJ Hamler. And it'll be interesting to see how he does, because it sounds like the team wants to bring him back based on people I'm talking to. And I mean, it really does sound like that's the hope. I'm not going to say the plan, because when it comes to your health, that's the first thing you got to deal with. That's got to be the plan. And that is KJ's plan. And it was really cool to hear what Jonathan Cooper had to say about it. There's a lot of cool reports out there. Coop, as you well know, had a heart condition, and now the guy's giving quarterbacks heart conditions out there because he's just breathing down their throat in training camp. So it can be done. But yeah, tight end's another one of those positions you've absolutely got to wonder about. And Broncos country goes and they look at the free agents, they look at wide receivers, they look at tight ends, and they're wondering, and I can't help but wonder a little bit too when I'm saying, left tackle, man, what's the depth look like on the offensive line too? I know I'm saying Garrett Bowles having an underwhelming camp. I'm not saying he should be benched. No way. Cam Fleming was drowning before Garrett Bowles checked into camp. He had kind of a veteran day that first day, but when you look at depth on the O-line, man, it's a little concerning. You and I have been on the depth from the D-line for a very long time, starting with the starters. But it's tough to see some O-line depth, at least on the squad right now. Who was your guy with the Polish last name that's playing out of his mind out there at camp? Tell us a little bit about this cat, because you told me as soon as you showed up yesterday, you're like, Luke, I got an O-lineman for you. I know how you love linemen. I got one for you. I'm like, all right, who you got? You named this cat, and I had never heard of him, and he's been putting together some really solid days.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Well, he's been running with the third and fourth team. He's not going up against first or second teamers. So, you got to take this with a little bit of a grain of salt, but he comes out of Illinois, Big Ten, played in a ton of college games. So he has a lot of experience. So he's not like this development guy that they're taking a chance on, right? He's got plenty of experience, and it really shows out there. He handled business pretty well yesterday from what I saw, and today. He does a great job of getting into his pass set. He's not, not one of those leaners or anything like that. He looked pretty good. Some run plays, he kind of moved some people, but he had a couple mistakes. But I think he, when I'm looking at Isaiah Prince out there, I'm sorry, I would give Alex Palczewski a shot just to see what he does in his stead for a little while, because it has not been good. And I was on Palczewski early on, so maybe it's kind of clouding my judgment about how great he's doing.
Of course it has. You're that guy. You're totally biased. That's why. No, you're exactly right. But the interesting thing about it, Thomas, and one of the reasons I'm so excited you're out here, you're going to see with your own two eyes tomorrow if he does get another look. And these guys have at training camp. I mean, changes are being made overnight, not dramatic ones, but just different opportunities. And they're not giving up on guys. They're not panicking either. Daniel Yost, I wanted to get to you. Thank you for joining Thomas and I as we wrap up MHI training camp edition, as Thomas and I have both been boots on the ground for Mile High Huddle. Head on over to milehighhuddle.com and read about our training camp adventures. Saying, good evening, Thomas, Luke, and Broncos country. In my opinion, McLaughlin is definitely a beast in the backfield, and I believe he will probably end up being our third running back. Your opinion on him, guys? Hashtag MHH for life and buck him. Yeah, we love him. I'm going to speak for Thomas on this. We absolutely love him. My notebook is littered full of notes with McLaughlin. I wrote about him a couple days ago on milehighhuddle.com, and this guy's a beast. He seemingly came out of nowhere. They always do, these undrafted free agents, and the rich history, as you know, Thomas, and as you've gone into on Legends of Mile High every Friday morning. I think this guy's it. I think he's at least one of your undrafted free agents. That's right, one of. I think there could be a couple that make this team. I mean, that's how crazy some of the talent is at some of these positions. He's definitely elevated above Tony Jones Jr., my guy from the Shrine Game way back when. Real University of Notre Dame, not the little Notre Dame that, McLaughlin originally went to and then transferred to Youngstown State. Though it's crazy how fast this kid is climbing up the depth chart. Daniel, I'll tell you this. Pookie got the day off today. Javonte Williams, coach's orders. He's fine. Coach wants to slow him down because he's running like a madman. Samaje Perine is looking like an absolute dog and beast. And then some guy named McLaughlin is running right behind those two. You got to feel good about it, baby.
I said today, it has to be something significant happen for him not to be the third man off the bench, right? But behind Perine and Williams. He looks that good. He looks so much better than anyone behind him that I don't know how you could somehow wedge your way in between the second and third guy between him and Pierre. I just don't see it. He's playing so good. I liked him early on. You know, I thought they need that change of pace guy, and I was like, he could be the guy early on. Now my mind is made up. Like he looks that good.
Yeah. I've seen all I need to see. I mean, like, and maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves, Thomas. Maybe it's been a minute, right? It's been a minute since you've seen this kind of performance from a smaller guy. And I know there's a lot of hesitation when it comes to smaller running backs. And when Matt Waldman is saying this guy's Philip Lindsay with hands, my ears perk up, and then you see it on the field and you're like, right on, man. That's pretty cool to see this young guy come out of nowhere seemingly, because talent can come from anywhere. It's one of the reasons why we hit the road here at milehighhuddle.com and our publication. Scott's on the road. I'm on the road. We're all on the road trying to do our best evaluations. James Richard coming in. What's up, James? Thanks for joining the show, man. Another one of our friends, $5 super. Broncos fan my entire life, just 42 years. For some reason, even with the struggles of Elway, I always had optimism the following season. Now is no different. Eternal optimism, man.
Yeah. Well,
hope springs eternal. Dude, there's a level of excitement to a new season because to steal a line out of Step Brothers, what's done is done, Dad. I mean, it's last year. While I can appreciate the pro wrestling element of Nathaniel Hackett versus Sean Payton, the two are never going to square off. They're never going to square up. It's all a bunch of lip service. You got Aaron Rodgers out there falling over himself, pulling a Will Smith. I mean, come on, man. Like, grow up. I get it. Sean Payton fired the first shot, but the Jets are keeping it going. Folks, don't forget, they're on HBO. They're on Hard Knocks right now. All right. They're all into themselves and they're going to be trashed because which Hard Knocks team is it?
Yeah. And guess what? John Elway had a better career his second half as an older, past his prime guy than he ever did as a younger guy, statistically speaking, for sure. So, and what happened was he got a different coach, right? Jim Fassel came in as offensive coordinator, brought back the West Coast style offense, which he learned at Stanford from Fassel. And the next thing you know, he had put together several great seasons, some of the better seasons of quarterbacks in history of the NFL, statistically speaking. And that's what happened. Then he got Mike Shanahan. So there is a reason to be optimistic because Russell Wilson looked terrible, got a new coach who's going to help him get better. And I just want to do one thing. I know you're talking, I'm going to go back to McLaughlin. Sorry about this. Talking about Philip Lindsay with hands. The problem with Philip Lindsay, other than, like you said, he didn't have hands and, there was some of it. He has what I call the Gaston Green effect, right? Gaston Green was a guy from back in the day, was supposed to be a superstar, but he was one of those backs who would get no yards, get a yard, lose a yard, and then all of a sudden he'd like get this big run and for a touchdown or something like that. And it was really cool for fans to see, but it's super hard for an offensive coordinator to game plan for that. Okay, now it's time for you to go on your big run. And Philip Lindsay had an element of that, right? And as a starter, it's hard to get a game plan around him. So when you got McLaughlin doing that same type of thing where he comes in and boom, he takes off as the third guy coming in off the bench, that's okay. And you got two powerhouses in front of him that are going to grind out those yards every, play in, play out. And then they're like, hey, maybe we can get a big one by giving a quick handoff to McLaughlin. So that's what the Philip Lindsay comparison for me is more so than he just has hands is he can hit that home run, but he doesn't have to carry the load and frustrate offensive coordinators, not getting those 3, 4, 5 yards, when it matters the most. Not that he didn't do it, but it wasn't as consistent.
100%. Michael Branquillo coming in 100% with all the support and the love, saying, great show tonight, Thomas and Luke on the Mile High Insiders. Go Broncos and buck 'em. Yeah, these guys are getting opportunities. Phil McLaughlin's getting opportunities. All these guys, it doesn't matter. So his coach talked about it, and he is truly backing it up when he says it doesn't matter if you were drafted. Right. It doesn't matter where you were drafted. It doesn't matter how much you were signed for. I mean, like, he is truly a man of his word this far into training camp, and we're seeing it. And sometimes I'm scratching my head. Why are some of these team captains and veterans playing with the twos right now? Are they in trouble? Is this coach not like them? Is he mad at them? No. everybody's playing a hodgepodge of games right now. It's reps with different positions. It's inspired, I think, competition, and that's really motivated this fan base to come check it out. And if you guys are going to be out there tomorrow, come say hello. Thomas and I are going to be out there fighting some more in the Mile High Heat, taking our notes, having a blast, and we'd love to see you. Come say hello, take a picture with us. You'll be entered for a chance to win an MHI hat or a shirt. And we want to see you guys. We want to make sure we're thanking you for all the support. And we just want to talk football with you guys, just like we're doing right now here on MHI. And it's a lot of fun, man. I'm super pumped. I guess tomorrow we're not going to be out there. I should say Friday. Come check us out on Friday, then Saturday, then the boys are off on Sunday. So we'll be out there Friday. Come say hello. It's a ton of fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely. I'm excited to get back out there on Friday because I want to see it. I want to see some more intensity, right? I haven't seen that. They did their first day in pads and it was supposed to be high intensity, but Patrick got hurt. And then the next few days, they weren't full go, right? They had pads on, but they weren't really like laying the wood. And that's where you start to see some of these people, like we talked about the safeties, like JL Skinner, hard hitter, may make some noise when you really go full speed ahead, right? They might catch somebody's eye, a big hit. It happens. You never know.
I think when you see it, it's going to be during joint practices.
Yeah, probably.
That's when you're going to see it because these guys are wearing that ridiculous thing on their helmet, and it kind of shows the sign of the times. I don't think it's a Sean Payton thing. I think if he had it his way, you'd see the Oklahoma drill. And that's just total speculation. I'm not saying right, wrong, or indifferent, but his coach has to adhere to the CBA and things like that. I think that Rams practice is where you're going to see it. Also makes me wonder too, because Tim Patrick's down. I want to see who the dog on this team is because D linemen would be getting after the Broncos offense and Tim Patrick's in their face ready to fight. And that's something that I respect about Tim Patrick. I love his loyalty. I love that he's truly an alpha dog speaking for his team and his unit, backing him up, man. And I want to know who's going to do that. It doesn't have to be at the wide receiver position. Something tells me Mike McGlinchey isn't going to stand for no jive, just like our guy James Richards coming in here at the end of the show, $5 super. As an Elway fan, he would have been another Marino without TD and Shanahan. Shanahan being my personal favorite. P.S. The new uniforms equals Super Bowl. Shout out to Mike Shanahan as well as we try to get that guy into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Guys, we are running up against the hour. We got to get out of here, but we know you didn't get enough football with us. If you'd like to reach out, please do. On Twitter, that's at Luke Patterson LP, at Thomas Hall NFL. If you'd like to talk to Scott, at Scout Kennedy. Follow us on Twitter, the mothership, at Mile High Huddle. Head on over to milehighhuddle.com. Tom has got an article ready to be published any minute now on some players. Yep, on some players that he's looking at. I've got my training camp journal up at milehighhuddle.com. Stay tuned. The boys will be back tomorrow night. Those Huddle Up boys. I'm still calling them the Huddle Up boys. You know them. We love them. I get it. It's the Mile High Huddle podcast, but they're the Huddle Up boys. They've been the Huddle Up boys for a little while. I'm going to continue to rep that. We appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for all of the support. Thank you for coming out and saying hello. Thank you for joining us tonight. It's always a fun show. It goes super fast, but go Broncos, Broncos country. This is the way.
This is the way.